Forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
And I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love, and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views, and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile.
You know that there are people who feel that the way that you have built in New York, that you have respect, you've become a role model in this country, because people are looking to leaders. People are looking for values, and you're one of the people. And it's no, you may dismiss it, but people are talking about, you know, Donald Trump for president. What they're really talking about is Donald Trump, show us the way. Well, be the true white hat. So the question is, in terms of specific things, the Woolman Memorial was very nice. But north of the Woolman Memorial, into the pockets of poverty and despair in this country, is where the problems are. You know your way.
I like talking the big picture, because the big picture is really what can solve the overall problem. Now, when you say, what are you doing with Japan, what are you doing with the countries, when you put a tax on Japan for the products that they're selling, you will bring in hundreds of billions of dollars to this country, which can go to rebuilding our inner cities. Instead of giving Japan free military defense, you charge them for what they're getting, and you bring in hundreds of billions of dollars that if the right person asked, they would gladly pay, because they'd have to pay. You bring in hundreds of billions of dollars, which money can go toward the inner city, toward education. I am a huge believer. I'm very well educated, and I'm a huge believer in education, an unbelievable believer in education. That is a long-term solution. I wish it could be a shorter-term solution, but one of the things you need for education is money. We have a country that's losing $140 billion a year, at a minimum. I think it's much more than that, by the way, but at a minimum. It's tough to build housing for people. It's tough to educate people when you're losing $140 to $200 billion a year. What I'm saying is the United States is it's very simple what I'm saying. The United States is systematically being ripped off by many of the wealthiest countries of the world. You look at Saudi Arabia. You want to see a lifestyle? Their poor people live better than our rich people, okay? You go look at Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and various of the other oil-producing countries. You'll see lifestyle, because it's beyond belief. They have lifestyle because we give them their freedom and they give us nothing. I'm saying I want a piece of that. I want the money so that we can put the money into Harlem, so that we can give the money back to education. Because that's the big picture, but that's the real picture.
I'm astounded at what you're saying, because in the history of this country, we have never seen that kind of money, forget about trickle down, that kind of money conduited into the inner cities, into education.
Well, I think it has to be.
Well, maybe you better be in charge of not only getting that money back and seeing that it doesn't go over there, but that it goes into the inner cities, that it goes into job programs.
Is that an endorsement? I mean, we've come a long way. Is that an endorsement, though?
What do you do when you're not, where do you get your ideas from? Do you read books or
I read a lot, and I read a lot, but I actually wish I had more time. If I had the time, I would be a very avid reader. I went to a wonderful school called the Wharton School of Finance, and somehow did well and I think I did well on somewhat of a common sense basis. The world should be based more on common sense. I mean, people don't even think. When I ask a question, why, as an example, why are we defending Japan for nothing? Why aren't they paying for it? Everyone says, is that true? Do we really do that? Nobody even knows about it. And then they think about it, and that's the end of it. And by the way, including politicians, top politicians, I ask them, Washington, I say, why are we defending Japan for nothing? They say, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm angry about it. They're angry for one day, and then they go on to something else. It amazes me. There's no stick-to-itiveness, there's no aggressiveness, there's no advocacy. And that's really the word. Everything's a compromise today. We don't want to anger Japan. They're our friends. They're our partners. Don't tax them. Don't this. They're laughing at us. They think the United States is made up of a bunch of fools. They're laughing at us. Now, they don't laugh to our face because then we get insulted and then we do something about it. Behind closed doors, they are laughing at the United States. They think we are the biggest fools, the dumbest people in the world. Because look at the way they're living. Look at the way we defend them. Look at the way we opened up the Persian Gulf. Most of the oil goes to Japan. We open up the Persian Gulf for Japan to get oil, for Saudi Arabia, for Kuwait to make money. Why aren't they paying us for this? And it's all common sense, and I say it, and people say, boy, he's right, and then they don't do anything about it, the politicians I'm talking about. And it angers me, because then you say, why is there poverty? Why is there no education in Harlem? Why are the schools so bad? Why is there no housing? I'll tell you what, because this country doesn't have the money to do it.
Why didn't you put your money where your mouth is?
In where?
In terms of, without, enormous government subsidies, why didn't you go out and show the way? If you had gone out and built that kind of housing, even without government subsidies, it would be very hard, wouldn't it, afterwards, for everybody else not to follow suit.
Just so you understand, I've built a lot of subsidized housing. Senior citizen housing,
that one
beautiful
place in New
housing,
Jersey.
Beautiful housing, record-setting housing. I'm a huge investor in Starrett City in Brooklyn, which is a job of middle-income and lower middle-income people and lower-income people and senior citizens. We own a big percentage of that job. We have a lot of developments out in Brooklyn that when I got out of college, I was buying Brooklyn real estate, and it's not high-income housing by any stretch. I've done a lot.
This was the pre-Manhattan Trump.
This was the pre-Manhattan
This was
Trump.
before the tower and
this was
the
the
glitz and the board game and the book.
This was the pre-Manhattan Trump, yes.
Public
See, the problem is, well, I'm all for that. If the pre-Manhattan Trump never became the Manhattan Trump, perhaps I wouldn't exist today economically, because you cannot economically do that. There is no money. There's no subsidy. In those days, you had Section 236, you had Section 8, you had all different housing programs you were able to build. Today, you don't have that. Nobody.
So you're waiting for the government to do what you feel is right.
The government has to provide the financing for this, because no individual can do it. Now, people don't like to say it. They like to say, oh, as an individual, you can build. The fact is that the numbers are so horrendous. The losses are so huge that no individual can do anything meaningful in that way without government help. Now, when the government comes in and finances it, Trump will build thousands and thousands of units. How is the government going to finance it, though, when Japan is just ripping us dry, when West Germany and all of these other countries are ripping us dry, and we're losing hundreds of billions of dollars? We have to strengthen up the federal government, and the programs have to filter back into the city. Look at it really differently.
Okay.
I want to tax Japan. I don't want to tax you. I want to tax West Germany. I want to tax Saudi Arabia. We keep them alive. If it weren't for us, they wouldn't even be here. They wouldn't exist. I mean, to think that Saudi Arabia would not allow us to use their minesweepers to police their own Persian Gulf is beyond me. I want to tax Saudi Arabia for the job we do in keeping them alive. They wouldn't be here for 20 minutes if we ever said, you're on your own, baby. I want to get the money from, I'm not looking to tax you, and I know you're very conscious of being taxed, obviously. But
no,
I'm not looking to tax you.
If my tax dollars were going not to patrol those waters, but were going directly to you to build low-income housing, I'd be thrilled. I would give you the money right now directly. But I think there's something ingenuous in building this kind of straw people, these straw countries, because we know that in the kind of multinational complications of the conglomerates, it's not so simple anymore.
Very simple. It's so simple you have no idea. You will tax Japan, you will tax West Germany, you will tax their products. People are still going to buy their products. And frankly, you're going to tell people, you're going to tell the American people, hey, look, they make a wonderful product, but you're going to have to pay a premium. You're going to absolutely have to pay a premium if you want to buy a Mercedes-Benz. You want to know something? West Germany won't even lose that much business, and this country will take in billions and billions of dollars. So you say to the American, look, we'd really rather have you buy an American car, but if you feel strongly that you like the West German product better, or you like the Japanese product, you're going to have to pay a tax on it. You have a choice. You can pay a tax on it. You'd be surprised at how little business they're going to lose, and you'll be amazed at how much money comes into our coffers. And you'll also be surprised at another thing. Japan and West Germany and Saudi Arabia, all these, they'll start respecting us. Because right now, they have absolutely no respect for the United States. They do not believe what they're getting away with, and they've gotten away with it for years.
What did your friend George Bush say when you outlined this to him?
I believe that George Bush and a lot of other people, and George Bush is a friend, but I believe that they just don't want to make waves. They don't want to broach the subject. They don't want to become, as I said before, advocates. They want to sort of just keep it the way it is.
So what chance do we have?
The problem that I have with that is that I don't believe you can keep it the way it is. See, I don't believe that a country can continue to lose perhaps $200 billion a year. I really don't. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen. Who knows, really? I mean, nobody, the economists, I think it's a wasted profession as far as I'm concerned, because I've never seen one that's consistently right. But nobody knows what's going to happen. But I'm, again, somebody that has a good instinct financially. I have had historically. I've followed markets. I've been going the right direction, whether it's New York real estate or stocks or whatever. I know from a common sense financial standpoint that something has to burst. When a country is losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, and when other countries are making hundreds of billions of dollars, something is going to burst, and it's going to start here. I know it. It's a question of when. To me, it's not a question if, it's a question of when. And unless we're going to solve our problem, and the problem is caused by our allies, unless we're going to solve that problem, this country is in very, very big trouble. And I'm not talking recession kind of trouble, I'm talking depression kind of trouble, and that's when we'll get smart. It's very interesting with the United States.
What would happen to Donald Trump in a depression?
Well, Donald Trump gets hurt like everybody else gets hurt. Donald Trump, who knows? I'm a very conservative guy. I believe in having cash as opposed to a lot of other people that don't have cash. I have wonderful properties. I have wonderful everything. Donald Trump gets hurt. Everybody gets hurt. The whole country goes,
well,
essentially the country goes somewhat down the tubes. And I'll tell you,
happens, let me ask you this question. By the power invested me in WNET, I make you in charge. The Donald is running the show.
I've come a long way with you.
Would you do it?
I wouldn't want to do it. I tell you what, I do not want to do it. I love what I'm doing now. I have a certain freedom. I don't think anyone does it any better than I've done it. I mean, I haven't been around that long. If you really look, it's 10 years, it's 12 years. It's not a long period of time in terms of what I've been able to build.
Yeah, but you have this big total vision of the country, the United States of Trump. I mean,
okay.
Would you really like to take over and run the country as you have run your organization?
I would much prefer that somebody else do it. I just don't know if the somebody else is there. I don't know if we have the kind of advocate that you need. We need major surgery. This country needs major surgery.
Are you the surgeon?
I think I do a fantastic job, but I really would prefer not doing it.
Are you saying you will take it home if drafted?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I hope that somebody comes along who can be an advocate, and I think that somebody will be so popular.
But you haven't seen anybody.
He or she will be the most, but I don't see it now. I wish that person were there. I don't know how much longer we have. But again, I do know one thing. It's not a question. This country is losing hundreds of billions. It's not a question if, it's a question when. It is going to happen. It's going to happen drastically, it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to be horrible. And I'll tell you the other thing. This country has always reacted best under adverse conditions, whether it's wars or anything else. That's when, unfortunately, we're going to wake up. I'd like to see the country wake up long before that.
An ominous prediction, but hope in the future. This is the 11th hour.
You might be classified as an Eastern Republican. Fair?
Well, I guess you could say that, yes.
Which means kind of a Rockefeller, Chase Manhattan Republican?
I never thought of it in those terms.
How do you define it? Are you a Bush Republican?
No, I think I'm really, the people that I do best with are the people that drive the taxis. You know, wealthy people don't like me because I'm competing against them all the time, and they don't like me, and I like to win. The fact is, I go down the streets of New York, and the people that really like me are the taxi drivers and the workers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I really get a great
Then why are you a
response.
Republican?
I have no idea. I mean, I am a Republican because I just believe in certain principles of the Republican Party.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
You have flirted with the idea of politics. Now you're here at your first national convention. Does that get you interested in possibly making the plunge?
Now you have to tell me something. Who told you I flirted?
Well,
I didn't know that I flirted with.
Well, you took out full-page ads in the New York Times to talk about your foreign policy. Some people would say...
I do feel very strongly about the country. I love the country.
I have never understood how this is possible. I have never understood how somebody throughout this country didn't sue the United States government and have that overturned. I mean, you had people, investors, investing over a 10-year period for under a set of conditions, and this is, as I was talking before, playing the game. We're all playing by a certain set of rules. The rules were changed for the government, but they weren't changed for us. I mean, it was an incredible circumstance that happened, and people went bust by the hundreds of thousands, and I hope you weren't one of them in terms of that, but obviously you know a lot of people that were. They changed the rules on taxes, and you have some incredible situations where people guaranteed personally a stream of payments to be paid over a 10-year period based on a stream of tax benefits for perhaps a very good job, like a low-income housing development. Nothing wrong with that, a very positive thing. And after 2 years, they got wiped out with the taxes, and yet they still owed all of this money. And many of these people, most of these people, had to declare bankruptcy. They couldn't pay it.
I deal with foreigners all the time. I deal with foreign leaders all the time. I know many of the foreign leaders probably better than a lot of the so-called candidates that are running on the Republican and Democratic tickets. I think I'd get along very well with them, and I think you'd have a lot less gridlock in Washington if I decide to do this and if I won.
You know, nobody talks about the soldiers that are coming back with no arms and no legs. And I saw at Mar-a-Lago on Mondays, I make Mar-a-Lago my club that you know about.
In Palm Beach.
I make that twice now. On a Monday, I let returning Iraqi injured soldiers come to the premises. The most beautiful people I've ever seen, but they're missing arms and legs. They're with their wives. Sometimes they're with their girlfriends, and the tears are coming down the faces of these people. Well, I just hate what's happened to this country. We've gone to a country that's no longer respected. We're in a war that we should have never, and by the way, I'm worse than any hawk there is in terms of military and in terms of defending ourselves. But Saddam Hussein didn't knock down the World Trade Center. He had nothing to do with it. And there were no weapons of mass destruction.
The other day, the head of 3M said that President Obama is anti-business. Do you get the same feeling that he does?
Well, I don't know that it's anti-business or he just really doesn't know exactly what to do. And I'm afraid it probably is the second thing. I don't see him necessarily as anti-business. I think that he is not sophisticated in the ways of business. He hasn't dealt with the people that you've dealt with and that I've dealt with. I deal with China, as an example, a lot. It is never easy. And I've made some very big deals with the Chinese. I've come out on top. I've come out in great shape. I sell apartments to Chinese people. I get along great with them. It's not like, you know, anti-China. I just think it's ridiculous that we allow them to do what they're doing to this country with the manipulation of the currency that you write about and understand, and all of the other things that they do. And frankly, if I were them and if I could get away with it, I take my hat off to them, frankly. They do get away with it. And I hire companies all the time, and it's so hard for our companies to compete against Chinese companies. I mean, these
these companies have such an advantage, whether it's glass for a curtain wall or whether it's, and you use the term because you know what's happened, sheetrock. I mean, they used to give us sheetrock, just give it. And everybody that was unfortunate enough to use Chinese sheetrock had problems. I mean, problems like where people were dying from it. The good news, Steve, our product is much better, but with the manipulation of their currency, it's very, very, very hard for our companies to compete.
But I'll certainly do whatever is necessary and however I can help, whether they want me to make speeches, whether they want me to contribute, raise money, I'll do whatever I have to do. We need somebody great as a president.
I know that you were mentioning that Aaron and I did a kind of an interesting video not that long ago in August about how things have fallen apart. But at that point, the only people who were saying it were us and you.
I was saying it. I was saying it a long time ago. And frankly, they're talking about 50 basis points. I think you should drop it a point, a full, solid 100 basis points, and just sit back and see. And I was actually looking at somebody, a gentleman from Goldman Sachs was saying 175. Right. So that's going to be interesting. But I think that's ultimately going to be happy. And it would be nice if Ben could get now ahead of the curve instead of always being behind the curve. He's behind the curve. Say what you want about Alan Greenspan. He was always slightly ahead of the curve. Right. And that was always brilliant. And he had this incredible reputation. I think Ben has to get a little bit ahead of the curve. He has to do something dramatic. And I really think what he should do is surprise the hell out of everyone and do it 100, and let's see what happens.
That would be big. Any politician, do you think, has the pulse? Anyone running for president has the pulse of what you know about the economy?
Well, the biggest problem is something I never hear about. I told you about it once. Every time they lower interest rates, the cartel, because I call it a cartel, right, the illegal monopoly, raises oil prices, okay? So the monopoly, because that's all it is, it's right, a total illegal monopoly. If businesses ever formed OPEC, everybody would be put in jail. Here they are, and every time a country hits oil, they're invited in to the cartel. It's a disgrace. So what happens is every time interest rates go down, oil prices go up, and it's the same number. I mean, practically the same money. So they lower it, they raise it, they lower it, they raise it. Now you have oil that's close to 100, going to be over 100, and nobody in this country calls and says, get that damn oil price down. You get it down.
But I have to tell you that our country is in serious, serious trouble. We owe $17 trillion. Our debt. How do you pay off $17 trillion? Nobody ever heard the expression a number of years ago. The word trillion. We have debt that's beyond belief. We have deficits that nobody can even comprehend. China, which I've been talking about for the last 5 years, yesterday, right in our face, they just devalued their currency. Now, for those that don't understand devaluation, what they're basically doing is saying, we're really ripping you big league. Nobody's ever done it better than us, but now we're going to really do it again. And the reason they did it, and everybody was surprised by it, was because our leadership is so weak and so pathetic that they can get away with it. And believe me, they're taking our jobs, and they're taking them big league. And China's not the only one. You look at other countries, they're all doing the same thing. They have no respect for our leader, and frankly, they have no respect any longer for our great country. And it's so simple to solve. What we need is a strong economy. What we need is jobs. Now, you hear these phony job numbers, 6.7%. The 6.7% is probably 21 or 22% real numbers. When you give up looking for a job, it's like they consider you employed. It's amazing. They changed this. You know, in the old days, if you had people that couldn't find work, they couldn't find work. Today, now you look at what's going on with Afghanistan. You have Karzai that's treating our president like he doesn't even exist. So they make a deal, and I'm not advocating stay, because frankly, I want to build this country. I want to build these schools. I don't want to build a school in Afghanistan, a road going to the school, watch it get built up and then blown up 4 times, and they keep rebuilding and rebuilding, and you go to Brooklyn, New York, and you can't have schools. You go to Iowa, you can't. You go to wherever you go, and you can't have schools. Because we don't have any money, because we're spending it in other places where, frankly, they don't want us, and I don't want them. And it's amazing.
Our country is in serious trouble. We don't have victories anymore. We used to have victories, but we don't have them. When was the last time anybody saw us beating, let's say, China in a trade deal? They kill us. I beat China all the time. All the time. When did we beat Japan at anything? They send their cars over by the millions. And what do? When was the last time you saw a Chevrolet in Tokyo? It doesn't exist, folks. They beat us all the time. When do we beat Mexico at the border? They're laughing at us, at our stupidity. And now they're beating us economically. The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. It's true. Islamic terrorism is eating up large portions of the Middle East. They become rich. I'm in competition with them. They just built a hotel in Syria. Can you believe this? They built a hotel. When I have to build a hotel, I pay interest. They don't have to pay interest because they took the oil that when we left Iraq, I said we should have taken. So now ISIS has the oil. And what they don't have, Iran has. And in and I will tell you this, and I said it very strongly, years ago, I said, and I love the military, and I want to have the strongest military that we've ever had, and we need it more now than ever, but I said, don't hit Iraq, because you're going to totally destabilize the Middle East. Iran is going to take over the Middle East. Iran and somebody else will get the oil, and it turned out that Iran is now taking over Iraq. Think of it. Iran is taking over Iraq, and they're taking it over big league. We spent $2 trillion in Iraq. $2 trillion. We lost thousands of lives, thousands in Iraq. We have wounded soldiers who I love. They're great. All over the place. Thousands and thousands of wounded soldiers. And we have nothing. We can't even go there. We have nothing. And every time we give Iraq equipment, the first time a bullet goes off in the air, they leave it. Last week I read 2,300 Humvees. These are big vehicles were left behind for the enemy. 2,000, you would say maybe 2, maybe 4. 2,300 sophisticated vehicles they ran, and the enemy took them. Last quarter, it was just announced, our gross domestic product, a sign of strength, right? But not for us. It was below zero. Who ever heard of this? It's never below zero. Our labor participation rate was the worst since 1978. But think of it, GDP below zero. Horrible labor participation rate. And our real unemployment is anywhere from 18 to 20%. Don't believe the 5.6. Don't believe it. That's right, a lot of people up there can't get jobs. They can't get jobs because there are no jobs. Because China has our jobs, and Mexico has our jobs. They all have our jobs. But the real number is anywhere from 18 to 19 and maybe even 21%. And nobody talks about it because it's a statistic that's full of nonsense. We have a disaster called the big lie, Obamacare. Obamacare. Yesterday it came out that costs are going for people up 29, 39, 49, and even 55%. And deductibles are through the roof. You have to get hit by a tractor, literally a tractor, to use it, because the deductibles are so high, it's virtually useless. It is a disaster. And remember the $5 billion website. $5 billion we spent on a website. And to this day, it doesn't work. $5 billion website. And I hear my fellow Republicans, and they're wonderful people. I like them. They all want me to support them. They don't know how to bring it about. They come up to my office. I'm meeting with 3 of them in the next week. And they don't know, are you running? Are you not running? Could we have your support? What do we do? How do we do it? I like them. And I hear their speeches. And they don't talk jobs, and they don't talk China. When was the last time you heard China's killing us? They're devaluing their currency to a level that you wouldn't believe. It makes it impossible for our companies to compete. You don't hear it from anybody else. They say the sun will rise, the moon will set, all sorts of wonderful things will happen. And people are saying, what's going on? I just want a job. Just get me a job. I don't need the rhetoric. I want a job. And that's what's happening. And it's going to get worse because remember, Obamacare really kicks in 2016. It is going to be amazingly destructive. Doctors are quitting. I have a friend who's a doctor, and he said to me the other day, Donald, I never saw anything like it. I have more accountants than I have nurses. It's a disaster. My patients are beside themselves. They had a plan that was good. They have no plan now. We have to repeal Obamacare, and it can be replaced. And it can be replaced with something much better for everybody. Let it be for everybody, but much better and much less expensive for people and for the government. And we can do it. I've watched the politicians. I've dealt with them all my life. If you can't make a good deal with a politician, then there's something wrong with you. You're certainly not very good. And that's what we have representing us. They will never make America great again. They don't even have a chance. They're controlled fully. They're controlled fully by the lobbyists, by the donors, and by the special interests, fully. They control them. Hey, I have lobbyists, I have to tell you. I have lobbyists that can produce anything for me. They're great. We have to stop doing things for some people, but for this country, it's destroying our country. We have to stop, and it has to stop now. Now, our country needs a truly great leader. A leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. We need a leader that can bring back our jobs, can bring back our manufacturing, can bring back our military, can take care of our vets. Our vets have been abandoned. And we also need a cheerleader. You know, when President Obama was elected, I said, well, the one thing I think he'll do well, I think he'll be a great cheerleader for the country. I think he'd be a great spirit. He was vibrant. He was young. I really thought that he would be a great cheerleader. But he wasn't a cheerleader. He's actually a negative force. He's been a negative force. He wasn't a cheerleader. He was the opposite. We need somebody that can take the brand of the United States and make it great again. We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again. We can do that. And I will tell you, I love my life. I have a wonderful family. They're saying, Dad, you're going to do something that's going to be so tough. You know, all of my life I've heard that a truly successful person, a really, really successful person, and even modestly successful cannot run for public office. Just can't happen. And yet that's the kind of mindset that you need to make this country great again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. Right over here. My God. If we can make a good deal in the salary, she's going to probably have a job, okay? Now, I always start off by saying we will repeal and replace Obamacare. We're going to cut Common Core. We're going to bring our education local. We're going to preserve our Second Amendment. You know, everything. Everybody knows. So I watched him the other night. Donald Trump absolutely loves Obamacare. I said, what? He's telling this to an audience. Believe me, folks, we're going to repeal it and replace it. We're going to be the smart people. We're not going to be the people that get pushed around all over the place. We're going to be the smart people. You're going to be proud of your president, and you're going to be even prouder of your country.
Welcome to the unreferred 1 hour town hall with presidential candidate and GOP frontrunner Donald Trump. And now,
Mr. Trump, thank you for meeting with us tonight. I'm actually a senior this year at Traders Point and heading off to Wabash College in the fall.
Good.
As we all know, candidate Sanders is offering free college tuition. I think that this is. I think
he's leaving the race today, by the way. So he's got some difficulty. But go ahead.
I think that this is unattainable and obviously unachievable.
Sure.
It would also devalue a person's degree. However, being a high school senior, financial decisions play a massive role when deciding where to go to college. So my question is, do you have anything in place to combat the ever-rising costs of college tuition?
Yeah, it's really a great question. It's a question I get asked more than any other question, especially when I'm at, areas where you have a lot of young folks going to college. And it's very sad. The students are literally, they borrowed up to here. And what the colleges have done is they haven't watched their costs, because basically the students are conduit between the government and the college to get money. And the college keeps going up, 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 much faster than any other cost. If you take a look. And we're going to look into that seriously, because it's unfair. The students are borrowing up to here. The other problem they have, and we're going to work on student loans, we're going to work on some kind of a deal for low interest and really good student loans. Give them a longer term to pay it out. Maybe you pay it out after they get jobs. They have to pay it back. I mean, look, we work a deal where the students can live with it, because they're not able to live with it right now. But the biggest problem is you go to college, you go to a good college, that's a good college, you go to a great college, and you graduate, and you do well, and you get out, and you can't get a job. And that's the biggest problem, because they can't get jobs. There are no good jobs. Even the other side admits the jobs we have are bad jobs. And the real unemployment rate is like 20%. It's not 5%. That was done so the politicians look good. Because if you go out looking for a job and then you quit looking for a job, they consider you, statistically, you're considered employed. So here's what we do. We're going to work on jobs. We're going to bring our jobs back from Mexico and from China and from Japan. How we're going to make our products here. We're going to start making our products here. The countries are abusing us. Believe me, folks, countries are abusing us. And the reason the politicians don't do, they know the problem. Corporate inversions and everything else, they're leaving like you wouldn't believe it. Look, I looked at numbers. 40% of your manufacturing is gone in this area, 40%. Over a fairly short period of time. We're going to stop it. Companies are taking advantage of us, and countries are abusing us. And the way you stop it is so easy. It's called consequence. If they want to play that game, and it's a dirty game that they're playing, again, free trading, I love it. I always want to defend it, but we can't do it because we don't have the people. We don't have the smart people. What we're going to have to do is tariffs and taxes for the countries that don't behave. And you know what's going to happen? As soon as we say we're going to impose it, they're going to behave very, very nicely. The problem we have, and I'll tell you, it really is fair, but the problem we have from the student standpoint, Greta, they're graduating from college, they're wonderful, they're great, they graduate high in their class, they can't get jobs.
Someone who certainly doesn't need an introduction here in Indiana, and probably not any place across the country. Former Indiana University basketball coach Bobby Knight is here. I've already given the coach trouble backstage because Indiana beat Wisconsin just too many times. But anyway, I'm delighted to talk to the coach. Coach, why are you a Trump supporter?
Because I think, you know, I'm not a Republican and I'm not a Democrat. And I've always voted because I think that voting is a special thing that we have in this country that isn't in a lot of different countries. But I've always voted, for the person that I thought was the best for the job. And there's no question. There's no question in my mind that the man sitting between the two of us is far and away the best person to lead America back where we all want to be led. And that's the guy that can do it right here.
Thank you, Coach.
Donald, did you contact Coach or Coach contact you?
I'll tell you, it was a funny story. Now, I've been a fan for many years, but I didn't know Bobby.
You and the whole state.
The whole country. Not the state. I mean, it's everybody. I get a call about a year ago from Bobby. He said, if you run for office, I'm endorsing you. And I hadn't even really decided at that point whether I was going to run. But he just called up. I said, you know what, Coach? Do me a favor. First, I had to make sure it was really him. I said, Bobby Knight. That was like a big deal for me. But I said, would you do me a favor? Give me your number and, you know, let's see what happens, and I'll call you back. And about a week ago, I said, hey, we're going to Indiana. And we all love Indiana, but who's more Mr. Indiana? Who's done more for Indiana? I mean, look at all the championships. And the beauty is, it's not even that. He's an unbelievable leader. He's tough, he's smart, and he knows how to win. Because we don't win anymore, Bobby. We were saying before, they don't win anymore. And I said, hey, and I called the number. He picked up. Yeah. I said, Coach, it's Trump. Do you still want to endorse me? He said, absolutely. I've been waiting for your call. So anyway, so it was...
That to me is a little indication of the kind of man we're talking to right here. And he's absolutely right in how things worked with me having a friend call him and get a chance to talk to him. And I kind of said, well, you know, I hope that works out because I would really like to be in a position where I can be of some help to him. Not really thinking, well, I'll tell you, on the exact day that he told me he would call me, about 2 or 3 months later, that morning at 7 o'clock, he called me to ask me if I was ready to go. Now, I think that most people in his status would have forgotten about that a long time ago. But let me tell you, when he tells you he's going to do something, and when he's on the side of what has to be done, he never, ever forgets what he's doing. I'll tell you that right now. And what he's doing, best man there is for the development of the United States.
Coach, we have a question from a member of the audience. Forrest, who is part of the greatest generation, served in World War II, has a question for Donald Trump.
As an Indiana University graduate and a World War II vet, I have a tremendous respect for the general, Bobby Knight. And Mr. Trump, how would you compare your successful career and philosophy with Coach Knight?
Well, it's actually a great question. I just love his philosophy. I mean, we're in a different world, and he was in the world of sports, and nobody did better. And, you know, one of the great things about Bobby that a lot of people don't know is he really trained a lot of great coaches, some of the best, like you look at Duke, and you look at so many of the different places where they have the great coaches. They were trained, and they worked with Bobby. But Bobby was, you know, his field, a tremendous leader, and what he's done is phenomenal. So I'd like to put myself in a category even close to Bobby as far as that. You talk about the word leadership, that's leadership. Thank you.
Very nice of you to say that. I appreciate it. But let me say another thing about Mr. Trump. And I think we're a little bit alike in that regard. If we're involved in something where we want to win, and particularly something that's necessary, if there's something out there where we need to win, we're going to try and beat your ass every time we can.
And smart like Greta as part of your cabinet.
That's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea. She would be excellent.
I think more than an hour with me would be enough for Donald. I think
The truth is she's doing, she's doing so well, I'm not sure she'd want it. You want to know that. But I will say this, it's such a great question, and nobody ever asks the question. You know, we talk about how do you get money and bring the jobs back, and all of that's going to be easy. In a way, the easiest thing for me is cutting, because we have, we call it waste, fraud, and abuse. We have billions and billions and billions of dollars. And you see it where a highway is going to cost X dollars and it costs 5 times more than it's supposed to. You can imagine the money that these contractors are making on these things that they're building all over the country where it's totally out of control, including military spending. You know, military spending is tremendous and very important to me, and we're going to rebuild our military. But things cost twice as much as they were supposed to cost, 3 times as much. Not supposed to happen that way, okay? It won't happen that way with the right contractors, frankly, and the right people knowing how to negotiate a contract. So there's tremendous waste and there's tremendous fraud and abuse. And we are going to save billions and billions of dollars. It's such a great question because, and it's so easy. It's so easy. That's one of the easiest things. So very good. I hope you're going to vote for me, brother. I've been getting so many calls from people that I'll see on your show and other shows that say the worst things about me. It's like,
you say bad things too. You can fire back just as hard.
But that's true. But they'll say these things.
Your son nodded yes, by the way.
I know.
I know him well. It's true.
But Greta, they say such bad things, and then they call me over the last couple of weeks. They want to get on board. They want to come in. They want to come into the. I actually said to a couple of them, how can you, after what you said about me, how can you? It's okay. I want to have you, but how can you possibly do that? And they say, don't worry about it. And you know why? Because they're politicians. They can do it. You know, it doesn't matter. But they all want to come. So tremendous numbers of people are coming on board. They'll be announced pretty soon. But a lot of people, and people that you wouldn't have believed, people that said the worst things, and they're going to, you know, no problem.
Politics is a unique business.
It's a strange world here.
Thank you to Don.
There was a group of a couple of hundred women, great women, and I didn't know about this, and they were in one of the conference rooms, and it was packed. These people, look at them. They're women that love Trump. I'm telling you, women do like me.
He's an American patriot. Thank you.
So go have a good time, okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you very much. Boy, there were hundreds. This was our representative group. Thank you very much. Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans. It's good. Hey, it's our leaders' fault. You know, it's not the Chinese fault. They do take advantage of us, folks, but it's our leaders' fault because we have leaders that don't know what the hell they're doing. Believe me. We're going to win. We're going to win with our military. We're going to win on the borders. We're going to win with trade. We're going to win with health care. We're going to win under Second Amendment. We're going to win with education. We're going to win, win, win. And thank you. Thank you, everybody.